come. So if I speak about so-called the objective history, there is no objective history. There's a subjective experience of Frederick, who happens to be here since very long. And so I can tell you Auroville's story, but more my story inside that adventure Mother calls Auroville. So I start with myself. I was born in Germany. I don't have experience of the war, but the effects of the war, the aftermath of the war, affected me very badly. I was, during the time directly after the war, I started my school in 45, that is when the war ended, and we were exposed to an extreme exposure. It was actually a political exposure of the horrors we Germans have committed, and as small children. I ended in India in 1959. I came the first time to India. I was just 20. And India had a third of the population which it has now. Different country, totally different country. I make it a bit short. I don't want to give you the whole story, but I ended up in Pondicherry in 1960. Pondicherry was a sleepy little town. A few streets were paved, the rest was sand still. There were no street lights, there was no pavement. There were 5 cars in Pondicherry. 3 of them belonged to the ashram. There was nothing.
No motorbike?
No motorbike. I felt I should say thank you to the one who was running the ashram, the mother. So I asked for an interview, which was not so difficult to get at that time, because the mother came every morning to the balcony to begin the day. That was part of the routine. And I also went there, stood there, looked up, saw the balcony. There she came, and nice, very nice, peaceful, nothing specific. So I asked for an interview out of courtesy, because I'm a well-educated German, and I said thank you very much for having allowed me to stay here. And that's it. That's changed my life. February 68, we heard some sort of rumbling noise, and then we see a cloud coming towards us. And suddenly, this caravan of trucks and lorries and cars and buses and cycles and motorbikes and bullock carts were moving slowly towards the center. It made this amphitheater there, but it was just an earth bowl, and the urn had been planted in the middle. And suddenly it was like participating in a myth, in a fairy story. Everything started moving very symbolically. We were all sitting around, and if you want to know the exact date and time of birth, like in a birth of a child, they always keep a watch in the delivery room, because it's important for the horoscope. I think it's about 60 minutes past 9 or something. You can check it out. This is the moment when Mother, in her room in the ashram, read out or spoke the charter. She reads it in French, and the moment she said, Auroville, it was transmitted directly. We were all sitting there to the amphitheater, and that was the beginning. It was like a gong. And it was like, for me, it was like an experience of suddenly something totally out of this world, and something totally different manifested.
And some people, they go outside. I'm a member of the forest group, and we plant in Auroville, in the Greenbelt, and in the city. Forest group is a service for Auroville. In the beginning, we didn't. We planted everything. We planted native species. Native. Actually, I'm in Brooklyn. I still talk like I'm from Brooklyn. Native species. It's called, you might read, dry tropical evergreen forest. That was once here in Tamil Nadu, and most of it's gone, and that's what we're trying to plant here. Most of them are very small. From the top of the watershed, does anybody know what a watershed is? Watershed. shed.
No.
Nobody knows, and it's very hard to explain. This area is the Aura Dam watershed. Water always flows, even on the flattest of land. It always moves. So the top of this watershed is up there a bit by Center Guest House. The water flows in one direction until it reaches the bottom, which is Yurumbai Tank. Then the water goes in another place from there to somewhere else. So you have to bund the land to hold the water in place. And then you plant the trees so the saplings respond.
That's a play area, the 3 kitchens, utility block, little bridge going into the rock. The rock will be sitting in a pool of water. In London, this is a 100 apartment block in London. It's called the Container City. And this is a company in the US called Tumblebee, which actually makes a small bungalow type container house. What do you do?
And they put banana, chewing betel leaf and that and other stuff. So as their time of worship, that's something different. So does Shaivites. People who follow Shiva, they go to Shiva temples. Their symbols are different. There's 3 vertical symbols, vertical lines you might have, sorry, horizontal lines you might have heard. Yeah, wait. Yeah. I actually call it Vibhuti. Actually, Vibhuti.
The rice powder. Yeah, this is stone powder, but normally people make with rice.
Hans, you want to do and I'll film you doing.
Then visit the center. You see the amas like that? with the caoutchouc.
Not a very, usual idea. So every morning, but you have to arrange it so that people can actually do it. So every morning, 6:15 till 9, and you're all very welcome to come if you want to. Monday to Friday, we work in the garden and we work together. And that's the focus actually of our community. And I've really kept that quite strongly. And I think that is something that sort of brings us together. I mean, if you're all, now when I came here, I immediately saw that there was no way we were going to be financially viable just on growing food out there. I mean, we just don't get enough money. I mean, we just don't, because, we have a cheap food policy here, like we do. And as you see here, we have a different form of raised bed. We use granite pillars, and actually they work quite well. And if you're in a place where you want to grow food, and you think you might have to move, these would be really good because you can just put them down. They don't require any special sort of bricklaying or anything, and you put them down, and then the soil gradually builds up. And the good thing about all the raised beds is that it keeps the soil from washing away in the rain. What's that?
So it cuts the sugar cane.
Thank you.